So the next step after defining your research question is finding sources. We are so lucky these days that you don't have to go to a library or anywhere to do this. You can look up information from wherever you are as long as you have a computer or phone which has a computer in it. So one great place to find sources is search engines. And this is what most people use on an everyday basis to look up information. Search engines allow you to use natural language and sort by relevance. So these are things like Google and Bing. You just type a question or whatever, and you'll probably find information related to that. There is a ton of information. It is convenient, it's free, and unfortunately there's a lot of unreliable sources and advertisements mixed in with the rest of the information that's probably better. You can still find good information using search engines. You just have to do more work to look through it and make sure it's credible before using it in research. Databases, on the other hand, are a collection of reviewed, reputable sources. So you can go into it more confident that there won't be articles trying to sell you things or just simple blogs or information that people made up. Those are less likely to be found on databases. They're usually offered through schools, kind of like a library service, but online. And in Utah, we all have access to Utah's Online Library, which is a collection of databases. So databases take practice to use because it's not exactly like Google in that you can type whatever you want and find limitless information. It takes a bit more know-how to be able to use it, but I will show you how to use it, and then with practice, you will be able to get really reliable information fairly easily. So I'm going to pull up Utah's Online Library. If you're using a school computer, it should log you in automatically. If not, you'll enter in a username and password, which changes frequently, so I'm not going to give that to you here. But I would recommend that you ask your teacher or look around on the assignment that you're doing for a login to get in if you're going from home. You go to utahsonlinelibrary.org and go to K through 12 schools. And then there are two main ones that I want to show you. The two databases that are found in Utah's Online Library are EBSCO and Gale. These are also found on a lot of university level things. So it's a really cool tool that you have to work with. Even down to elementary school students get to use this. But the first one is called EBSCO. And so you can go into EBSCO High School. Within this is a lot of buttons that I don't want you to get overwhelmed by. You could either go to Explora or All Databases, which I will go to here. When you are looking through databases, these are the tips that I want you to remember. So you type topics and keywords rather than questions. You don't just go in and copy and paste your entire research question because it's looking for keywords and it's not as, smart as Google in trying to figure out what you mean from a long stream of text. If you are finding that you're not pulling up what you need to pull up, then I would try different keywords. Always work on changing the keywords if you're not getting what you're looking for. And then you'll see there are abstracts, which is kind of like a conclusion paragraph or summary paragraph that are attached to a lot of these articles. And those are a really great way to get an overview of information. So before you read an entire 10-page article, you could read the abstract and decide if it's useful to answer your research question. And then you can also filter things by date, file type, full text, and other options to find what you are looking for. So I'm going to pull one of these research questions just to experiment with. And I think I will go with the second one. What is the most significant effect of glacial melting on the lives of penguins in Antarctica? So I'm going to say that's my research question for this project. And I'm going to go into EBSCOhost and pull some of my keywords. So maybe I'll look at glacial melting, penguins. I think those are the biggest things that I need to look into. So here are all of the databases. I'm going to push continue. And I am going to paste in glacial melting right here. So when I'm skimming through all of the results, there are some things to look at. It tells me what type of article it is. So this is a periodical. Here's an academic journal. It tells me the title right here and just a little bit of information over here. So if I'm looking through this, I can look to see how well these sources will answer my question about glacial melting. If I end up having too much information, I could refine my keywords. So maybe glacial melting penguins. And this looks like it's going to do a better job of answering my question, just skimming through here. Let's say I keep finding information from a really long time ago. Everything's from the 1980s. In that case, what I can do is change this, which is the publication date. So if I want recent information, I could go from 2005 to 2021. That will eliminate the older texts. There are other limiters. You always want to have full text pulled up so that you can see the article that it's talking about. And it's useful to do peer-reviewed journals. That means that it's more credible than those that are not, because multiple qualified people have looked over them and determined that they are accurate. And I can decide what type of source I want to look at. So this has academic journals and journals. I could choose which one to look at. So let's say I find a good article. I click on here and it'll bring me to the overview page. Here's the abstract that I was talking about. So this gives an overview of what is in the whole text of the article. If I read that and decide that it's useful, then I can decide to use this source. One cool tool that databases usually have is a citation tool. So if I click cite, I can just copy and paste my MLA citation from here instead of putting it together myself. And we'll talk more about that later. Okay, so that's a little bit about EBSCOhost. The other database that we have is called Gale. This one is one that I prefer because I find that it's easier to use, but I would recommend using both, especially if you're struggling to find sources that answer your question. So I just went to Gale and then Power Search right here, and it pulled up a similar type of search bar as the other one. I'm going to paste glacial melting penguins again right here. Okay, once I've searched, I can do filters on this as well. I can do things like publication date, set it to only be recent, subjects, document type. All of these can help you to narrow your results down. One thing I like about Gale as well is that it has it organized by type. So I can look through them this way in order to find what I need. Images can be useful in research as well. So other than that, it's pretty similar to EBSCO. You can go in, read your abstract, and then decide whether or not to read the whole source. If you want to read it, you just download it. You can add it to your Google Drive. And then down here is where I get my citation. And here is the full article. That's just a brief overview of the two databases that you can use on Utah's online library. Okay, we talked about finding sources using search engines or databases, and I gave you an overview of how to use EBSCO and Gale on Utah's online library.